Mary's life began in a small, quiet settlement nestled between towering mountains and endless stretches of desert. The land was harsh, unforgiving, and yet breathtakingly beautiful. It was a place where the sky stretched wide and blue during the day, only to transform into a canvas of stars at night. Mary had come to this wild frontier with her husband, Thomas, seeking a fresh start far from the crowded cities they had left behind. They dreamed of building a home, tending to crops and raising children amidst the vast openness of the untamed West. Thomas was a kind man, strong and hard-working, with hands calloused from years of labor. He had a gentle smile that could light up even the darkest days, and his love for Mary was unwavering. Together they worked tirelessly, clearing land, planting seeds, and repairing their modest cabin. Life was not easy, but it was theirs, a shared dream born out of hope and determination. Every morning as the sun rose over the horizon, Mary would step outside, breathing in the crisp air, feeling grateful for the life they were creating together. But the world beyond their little homestead was far from peaceful. The settlers who lived nearby were a mix of families, farmers, and drifters, all trying to carve out a piece of the frontier for themselves. While some were friendly and willing to help each other, others were suspicious, quick to judge, and slow to trust. Tensions often simmered beneath the surface, fueled by fear of the unknown, the vast wilderness surrounding them and the native tribes who called it home. Rumors spread like wildfire among the settlers, painting the tribes as dangerous enemies, bent on destruction. These stories created walls of distrust, dividing those who lived on the edge of the frontier. Mary and Thomas tried to stay out of the conflicts that occasionally erupted between settlers and tribes. They believed in living peacefully, respecting the land and its original inhabitants. But staying neutral was not always easy. One evening, as they sat by the fire after a long day's work, they heard distant shouts and the sound of horses galloping through the night. The next morning, news traveled quickly through the settlement. A group of settlers claimed that livestock had gone missing, and accusations flew like arrows. Someone suggested that a nearby native tribe might be responsible, while others pointed fingers closer to home. Suspicion hung heavy in the air, casting a shadow over what had once been a tight-knit community. It wasn't long before the blame fell squarely on Thomas. A neighbor accused him of stealing cattle, claiming to have seen him near the pasture late one night. The accusation shocked Mary. She knew her husband well enough to know he would never steal, not just because it was wrong, but because he valued honesty above all else. Still, voices grew louder, angrier, and more insistent. Some settlers, driven by fear and frustration, decided that action needed to be taken. They gathered in groups, whispering and plotting, their tempers flaring with every passing hour. One fateful night, a mob arrived at Mary and Thomas's cabin. Torches lit up the darkness, casting flickering shadows across the wooden walls. Mary clutched Thomas's arm, her heart pounding as she watched the angry faces approach. "We know what you've done," one man shouted, his voice dripping with venom. Thomas tried to reason with them, pleading his innocence, but his words fell on deaf ears. The mob didn't care about explanations or evidence. They wanted justice, no matter how unjust it might be. Before Mary could fully comprehend what was happening, chaos erupted. The settlers dragged Thomas away, ignoring Mary's screams and pleas. She ran after them, desperate to save her husband, but they pushed her back with cruel force. Her cries echoed into the night as she watched helplessly, unable to stop the violence that unfolded before her eyes. The mob's fury consumed them, leaving no room for mercy. When it was over, Thomas lay motionless on the ground, his body broken and lifeless. Mary collapsed beside him, sobbing uncontrollably, her world crumbling around her. As dawn broke, the reality of her situation sank in. The same people who had accused Thomas now turned their attention to Mary. Consumed by guilt and fear of retaliation, they decided she couldn't stay. To them, she was a reminder of what they had done. An outsider, who no longer belonged. Without food, water, or supplies, they led her deep into the desert, abandoning her to die. The barren landscape stretched endlessly in every direction. the sun rising higher and hotter with each passing moment. Mary stumbled forward, her legs weak and trembling, her throat parched and dry. Each step felt heavier than the last, her body succumbing to exhaustion and despair. Thoughts of Thomas flooded her mind, keeping her moving even when her body begged her to stop. She remembered their laughter, their dreams, the warmth of his embrace. How could this have happened? How could people turn so cruel, so heartless? Tears streamed down her face as she walked, her vision blurred by grief and dehydration. The desert seemed endless, a sea of sand and rock under a blazing sun. Just when she thought she couldn't take another step, her legs gave out, and she collapsed to the ground. Lying there, Mary felt her strength slipping away. Her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths, her heartbeat slowing. She closed her eyes, surrendering to the inevitable. But then, faint sounds reached her ears, hoofbeats, steady and rhythmic, cutting through the silence of the desert. At first, she thought it was a mirage, a trick of her fading mind, but the sound grew louder, closer. Summoning the last bit of energy she had, Mary opened her eyes and squinted against the sunlight. Through the haze, she saw a figure riding toward her, silhouetted against the golden horizon. The rider stopped beside her, dismounting swiftly. Mary caught a glimpse of his face, strong, weathered, and marked by wisdom. It was a Navajo warrior, his presence commanding yet calm. He knelt beside her, studying her with sharp, observant eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, without hesitation, he scooped her up in his arms and placed her gently onto his horse. As he mounted behind her, Mary felt a flicker of hope ignite within her, a fragile ember in the darkness of despair. She didn't know who this man was, or why he had chosen to save her, but in that moment, it didn't matter. All that mattered was that she wasn't alone anymore. The warrior guided the horse steadily through the desert, navigating the rugged terrain with ease. Mary clung to the saddle, her body too weak to do much else. She drifted in and out of consciousness, her thoughts jumbled and fragmented. Yet, even in her dazed state, she noticed the way the warrior moved with purpose, his movements fluid and deliberate. There was something comforting about his presence, a quiet strength that reassured her despite everything she had endured. Hours passed, though time seemed to blur together. Eventually, the landscape began to change. The barren desert gave way to rolling hills dotted with trees and shrubs. In the distance, Mary spotted a cluster of dwellings, simple structures built into the earth, blending seamlessly with the natural surroundings. Smoke curled lazily into the air from cooking fires, and the sound of voices carried on the breeze. This was a village, alive with activity and warmth. As they approached, people paused what they were doing to watch the newcomer. Their expressions ranged from curiosity to caution, their eyes following Mary as the warrior brought her to the center of the settlement. The warrior dismounted and helped Mary down, supporting her as she struggled to stand. She looked around, taking in the unfamiliar sights and sounds. The villagers gathered around, speaking in low tones, their language foreign, yet melodic. Mary felt a pang of unease, unsure of what awaited her. Would they turn her away just as the settlers had? Or worse, would they see her as an enemy? Her fears were interrupted when the warrior addressed the crowd, his voice firm and authoritative. Whatever he said seemed to sway their opinions, for the murmurs softened and several women stepped forward, offering her water and blankets. Gratitude washed over Mary as she accepted their kindness. Though she couldn't understand their words, their actions spoke volumes. They cared for her, tending to her wounds and sharing their food. The warrior stayed close, watching over her with a protective gaze. Over the next few days, Mary slowly regained her strength, her body healing from the ordeal she had endured. And as she did, she began to notice the intricate beauty of the village, the way the people lived in harmony with the land, their lives, intertwined with nature's rhythms. It was a stark contrast to the chaos and cruelty she had experienced among the settlers. Despite the warmth and generosity of the villagers, Mary couldn't shake the weight of her past. Nightmares plagued her sleep, replaying the horrors she had witnessed. During the day, she kept to herself, hesitant to form connections. Yet the warrior continued to visit her, sitting quietly by her side or bringing her small gifts: a woven bracelet, a piece of fruit, a feather. His gestures were simple but meaningful, reminding her that she was safe here, that she was valued. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, the warrior joined her by the fire. He gestured toward the stars, pointing out constellations and telling stories of his people. Though Mary couldn't understand every word, she listened intently, captivated by the rhythm of his voice and the passion in his storytelling. In that moment, something shifted within her. She realized that survival was just about enduring. It was about finding meaning, forging new connections, and embracing Mary slowly began to adjust to life in the Navajo village. At first, everything felt strange and unfamiliar: the language, the customs, the way people moved in harmony with the land. But as days turned into weeks, she started noticing the beauty in their way of life. The villagers woke early, greeting the sunrise with quiet reverence. They worked together, sharing tasks like gathering firewood, tending to crops, and weaving baskets. There was a sense of balance and purpose in everything they did, a rhythm that Mary had never experienced before. The warrior who had saved her, whose name she learned was Taza, became her guide in this new world. He taught her how to identify edible plants, how to draw water from the nearby stream, and how to weave simple patterns into fabric. His patience was endless, his instructions clear and gentle. Though Mary struggled at first, she found herself eager to learn, driven by a desire to belong. Each small success, a perfectly woven basket, a handful of freshly picked herbs, filled her with a sense of accomplishment she hadn't felt in years. Despite her growing comfort, Mary still carried the weight of her past. Nights were the hardest. When the village grew quiet and the stars filled the sky, memories of Thomas would flood her mind. She missed his laughter, his steady presence, the way he used to hold her hand during long evenings by the fire. Sometimes, she would sit outside her dwelling staring at the horizon, wondering if she would ever truly heal. On those nights, Taza would often appear, sitting silently beside her without saying a word. His presence alone was enough to ease her loneliness, reminding her that she wasn't entirely alone. As time passed, Mary noticed subtle changes within herself. Her body grew stronger, her movements more confident. She no longer flinched at every unfamiliar sound or worried constantly about what might happen next. The kindness of the villagers played a big part in this transformation. They welcomed her not just as a guest, but as one of their own. Women taught her how to grind corn into flour, while children laughed and played around her feet. Slowly, Mary began to feel like she was becoming part of something larger than herself, a community bound by shared values and mutual respect. Taza continued to play a central role in her life. He introduced her to the traditions of his people, explaining the significance of ceremonies and rituals that marked the changing seasons. Mary listened intently, fascinated by the depth of their beliefs and the connection they maintained with the earth. One day, Taza took her to a sacred site, a rocky outcrop overlooking a vast canyon. From there, they could see miles of untouched wilderness stretching out before them. Taza pointed to the horizon, describing the stories passed down through generations about the land and its spirits. Mary felt a profound sense of peace standing there, surrounded by such breathtaking beauty. But not everyone in the village accepted her so easily. Some elders remained wary, unsure whether allowing an outsider to stay was wise. They whispered among themselves, questioning her intentions and worrying that her presence might bring trouble. Taza defended her fiercely whenever these doubts surfaced. "She is one of us now," he told the council during one heated discussion. "She has suffered greatly, yet she shows courage and respect. We cannot turn our backs on her." His words carried weight, and though some still hesitated, most came to agree that Mary deserved a chance. In addition to learning survival skills, Mary also tried to understand the Navajo language. It wasn't easy. The sounds and structures were completely different from anything she had known. But Taza encouraged her, speaking slowly and repeating phrases until she got them right. Over time, she began picking up words and sentences, able to communicate basic thoughts and express gratitude. This progress delighted the villagers, who cheered her efforts and praised her determination. For Mary, mastering even a few phrases felt like a victory, proof that she could adapt and thrive in this new environment. Her bond with Taza deepened as well. What had started as gratitude for saving her life evolved into something more meaningful. Taza's quiet strength and unwavering support made him a constant source of comfort. He listened when she spoke of her pain, offering understanding without judgment. In return, Mary shared stories of her old life, the joys and struggles of building a home with Thomas, the dreams they had once nurtured. These conversations brought them closer, bridging the gap between their worlds. One evening, after a long day of work, Taza invited Mary to join him for a walk along the riverbank. The air was cool, carrying the scent of wildflowers and damp earth. As they strolled side by side, Taza stopped suddenly and turned to face her. His expression was serious, his dark eyes searching hers. "You have been hurt," he said simply, his voice low and steady. "But you are strong, stronger than you know." Mary felt tears welling up in her eyes. She nodded, unable to find the words to respond. Taza placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch firm yet gentle. "This place can be your home," he continued, "if you wish it." For the first time since losing Thomas, Mary allowed herself to imagine a future beyond grief. She realized that staying in the village didn't mean forgetting her past. It meant honoring it by embracing the second chance she had been given. The thought filled her with both hope and fear. Could she really start over? Could she let herself love again? These questions lingered in her mind as she walked back to her dwelling that night, the moonlight casting soft shadows across the ground. Days later, tensions arose when news reached the village of increased conflict between settlers and neighboring tribes. Rumors spread of raids and retaliation, fueling anxiety among the villagers. Some worried that Mary's presence might make them targets, fearing reprisal from settler groups who viewed outsiders with suspicion. Once again, Taza stood firmly by her side, defending her right to stay. "She is no threat," he declared during another council meeting. "She has proven herself loyal and brave. Turning her away would dishonor us all." His conviction swayed many, though not everyone was convinced. The debate highlighted the delicate balance the village maintained between tradition and change. For Mary, it was a reminder of how far she had come and how much further she still had to go. She resolved to prove her worth, working harder than ever to contribute to the community. Whether it was helping prepare meals, caring for children, or assisting with harvests, Mary threw herself into every task with renewed energy. Through it all, Taza remained her anchor, a steady presence in a world that often felt unpredictable. Their connection grew stronger with each passing day, built on trust and mutual respect. Mary found herself looking forward to their conversations, treasuring the moments they spent together. She admired his wisdom, his courage, and the way he carried himself with quiet dignity. More than anything, she appreciated the way he saw her, not as a victim or an outsider, but as someone capable of resilience and growth. One afternoon, as they sat beneath the shade of a tree, Taza handed Mary a small leather pouch. Inside was a beautifully crafted necklace adorned with turquoise stones. "This is for you," he said, his tone soft but sincere. Mary stared at the gift, overwhelmed by its beauty and significance. She looked up at Taza, her heart racing. "Thank you," she managed to say, her voice trembling. As she clasped the necklace around her neck, she felt a surge of emotion, a mix of gratitude, admiration, and something deeper she couldn't quite name. That night, lying awake under a blanket of stars, Mary reflected on how much her life had changed. From the depths of despair, she had found a new beginning. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, She felt hopeful. She knew challenges lay ahead, both for her and for the village. But with Taza by her side and the support of the community, she believed she could face whatever came next. And perhaps, just perhaps, she might find happiness again in this unexpected place. As weeks turned into months, Mary's place in the Navajo village became more secure. She was no longer seen as just an outsider. She had earned the trust and respect of many villagers through her hard work and willingness to learn. Each day brought new lessons, new challenges, and new opportunities to grow. The once daunting tasks of weaving, planting, and cooking now felt natural, almost instinctive. Mary discovered a sense of purpose she hadn't known before, a feeling of being part of something greater than herself. Taza remained a constant presence in her life, guiding her not only in practical skills, but also in understanding the deeper values of his people. He taught her about balance, the importance of giving back to the earth what you take from it, of respecting both nature and others. These teachings resonated deeply with Mary, reminding her of Thomas's belief in living harmoniously with the land. Though she missed him dearly, she found comfort in honoring his memory by adopting these principles into her daily life. But peace in the region was fragile. News of skirmishes between settlers and native tribes continued to reach the village, casting a shadow over their quiet existence. Some settlers accused tribes of stealing livestock or attacking wagons, while tribes retaliated against encroachments on their lands. Fear spread like wildfire, fueling mistrust and hostility. The villagers debated among themselves, torn between defending their territory and avoiding bloodshed. Taza often participated in these discussions, advocating for caution and diplomacy whenever possible. "Violence only brings more violence," he would say, his voice calm yet firm. "We must protect our home, but we should not lose sight of who we are." Mary listened intently during these meetings, absorbing every word. She understood the gravity of the situation. They were surrounded by danger, and tensions could erupt at any moment. Yet she also saw glimpses of hope. Several times, Taza led small groups to negotiate with neighboring settlers, offering trade goods in exchange for peace. These efforts weren't always successful, but they planted seeds of understanding that might one day blossom into something stronger. Despite the growing unrest, Mary and Taza's bond continued to deepen. They spent hours together exploring the wilderness, learning from each other and sharing stories. Mary told Taza about her childhood, about the bustling city streets she had left behind, and the dreams she and Thomas had shared. In return, Taza spoke of his own upbringing, of the lessons passed down by his elders and the adventures he had experienced as a young warrior. Their conversations bridged two vastly different worlds, creating a connection that transcended language and culture. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Taza handed Mary a bow and arrow. "It is time you learned to defend yourself," he said, his tone serious but kind. Mary hesitated, unsure if she was ready for such a responsibility. She had never held a weapon before, let alone used one. But Taza reassured her, patiently, showing her how to hold the bow steady and aim true. At first, her arrows flew wildly off course, landing far from the target. But with practice, she began improving, hitting closer and closer to the mark. Each success filled her with pride, reinforcing her growing confidence. Learning to use a bow wasn't just about self-defense. It symbolized Mary's transformation. She was no longer the frightened widow abandoned in the desert. She was becoming someone stronger, more resilient, someone capable of standing on her own. This realization struck her one afternoon as she stood atop a hill overlooking the village. Below her, children played, women worked, and men gathered around a fire, sharing laughter and stories. For the first time, she truly felt like she belonged here, like this place had become her home. Still, doubts lingered in the minds of some villagers. A few elders worried that Mary's ties to the settler world might someday put them all at risk. One night, after another round of heated arguments, Taza confronted the council. "Mary has shown us nothing but loyalty," he declared, his voice rising above the murmurs. "She has worked alongside us, learned our ways, and proven herself worthy To send her away now would be an act of cowardice. His words silenced the room, forcing everyone to reconsider their stance. While not all agreed, most reluctantly admitted that Taza was right. The turning point came when a group of settlers approached the village seeking refuge. They claimed their camp had been attacked, leaving them without food or shelter. Suspicion ran high. Some villagers feared it was a trap, while others believed helping them might ease tensions. Once again, Taza stepped forward, urging caution, but also compassion. If we turn them away, we are no better than those who hurt us, he argued. Let us show them what it means to live with honor. Under Taza's leadership, the villagers decided to offer temporary aid. Mary played a key role in this decision, using her knowledge of settler customs to communicate with the newcomers. She explained the villagers' generosity and emphasized the importance of mutual respect. Her presence helped ease fears on both sides, proving that bridges could be built even across seemingly insurmountable divides. Over the next few days, the settlers were fed, clothed, and given supplies to continue their journey. When they finally departed, they left with gratitude and a newfound appreciation for the Navajo people. This act of kindness strengthened Mary's position within the community. No longer viewed as an outsider, she was now seen as a vital link between two worlds. Her ability to understand both perspectives made her invaluable, especially as tensions escalated elsewhere. Reports of raids grew more frequent and fear gripped the region. Villagers fortified their defenses, preparing for the worst. Taza trained Mary alongside the warriors, teaching her how to ride a horse swiftly and navigate the terrain at night. Though she hoped she'd never need to use these skills, she was grateful for the preparation. Amidst the uncertainty, romance blossomed between Mary and Taza. What had started as friendship and admiration evolved into something deeper. They shared stolen moments beneath the stars, exchanging smiles that spoke louder than words. One evening, as they walked along the riverbank, Taza stopped suddenly and turned to face her. "You have brought light to my life," he said softly, his eyes searching hers. "I cannot imagine my path without you." Mary's heart raced, her breath catching in her throat. She had come to care for Taza deeply, but hearing him express his feelings so openly took her by surprise. "I feel the same way," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized how much he meant to her. In that moment, she let go of the last remnants of her past, allowing herself to embrace the future. Taza smiled, pulling her close and holding her as the sun dipped below the horizon. It was a promise, a vow to stand by each other no matter what challenges lay ahead. Word of their relationship spread quickly through the village, bringing joy to many. Even some who had initially doubted Mary warmed to the idea, seeing how happy she made Taza. Preparations for their union began immediately, with villagers contributing gifts and blessings. Mary was overwhelmed by their generosity, touched by the love and support surrounding her. For the first time in years, she felt truly cherished. On the day of the ceremony, the entire village gathered to celebrate. Mary wore a traditional dress, adorned with intricate beadwork, a gift from the women who had welcomed her into their fold. Taza stood tall and proud, dressed in ceremonial regalia that reflected his status as a warrior and leader. As they exchanged vows under the open sky, surrounded by family and friends, Mary felt a profound sense of belonging. This was her home now, and Taza was her partner, a man who had saved her life and given her a reason to keep living. Their marriage marked a new chapter not just for Mary and Taza, but for the entire village. It symbolized unity, resilience, and the power of love to transcend boundaries. Together, they vowed to protect their community and foster peace in a troubled land. As the celebration continued late into the night, Mary looked around at the faces, glowing in the firelight, and felt a surge of gratitude. She had come so far, from despair to hope, from loneliness to love. And though challenges undoubtedly awaited, she faced them with courage, knowing she was no longer alone. Life in the village after Mary and Taza's wedding was a blend of joy and responsibility. The couple worked side by side, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. Mary had fully embraced her role as Taza's wife, learning even more about the traditions and values of the Navajo people. She helped gather food, care for the children, and prepare meals alongside the other women. Her hands were often busy, but her heart was full. For the first time in years, she felt like she belonged somewhere, not just as an outsider who had been accepted, but as a valued member of the community. Taza, too, thrived in their partnership. He saw how much Mary had grown since her arrival, how she had transformed from a broken, grieving widow into a strong, capable woman. Her resilience inspired him, and he took pride in knowing that he had played a part in helping her heal. Together, they became a team, supporting one another through both the joys and challenges of daily life. Whether it was tending to crops, repairing fences, or teaching children archery, they did everything together, their connection deepening with every shared experience. But peace in the region remained fragile. Rumors of violence between settlers and native tribes continued to spread, reaching the village more frequently. Some settlers accused tribes of stealing livestock or attacking wagons, while tribes retaliated against encroachments on their land. Fear lingered in the air, casting a shadow over the quiet existence the villagers had worked so hard to build. The elders held meetings almost every week, discussing how to keep their people safe without resorting to bloodshed. Taza often led these discussions, urging patience and wisdom. "We must protect our home," he would say, "but we cannot let anger guide us." Mary listened closely during these meetings, absorbing every word. She understood the stakes better than most. She had seen firsthand how fear could turn people cruel. Her own suffering at the hands of the settlers haunted her still, but she refused to let bitterness consume her. Instead, she used her knowledge of settler customs and language to help bridge the gap between the two worlds. Whenever tensions flared, she volunteered to act as a mediator, speaking calmly and respectfully to ease misunderstandings. Her efforts earned her respect not only from the villagers, but also from some of the settlers who had once feared her presence. One afternoon, a group of settlers approached the village seeking help. Their wagon train had been ambushed, leaving them injured and low on supplies. They begged for food and shelter, promising they meant no harm. Many villagers were hesitant, fearing it might be a trap, but Mary stepped forward, addressing the crowd with quiet confidence. "They are scared, just like we are," she said. "If we turn them away, we become what they accuse us of being, heartless enemies. Let us show them kindness instead." Her words struck a chord, especially with Taza, who nodded in agreement. Under his leadership, the villagers decided to offer temporary aid. They provided food, water, and medical care to the settlers, ensuring they were fit enough to continue their journey. During their stay, Mary spent hours talking to them, explaining the Navajo way of life and emphasizing the importance of mutual respect. By the time the settlers left, they expressed gratitude, not just for the supplies, but for the lesson in humanity they had received. It was a small victory, but it gave Mary hope that peace was possible. As weeks passed, Mary and Taza focused on strengthening ties within the village. They organized gatherings where stories, songs, and dances brought everyone closer together. These events reminded the villagers of their shared identity and reinforced the bonds that held them united. Children laughed as they played games under the sun, while elders shared tales of their ancestors around crackling fires. Mary cherished these moments, finding solace in the warmth and unity of the community. However, challenges arose when reports of a large-scale raid reached the village. A neighboring tribe had attacked a settler camp, sparking outrage among settlers who vowed revenge. Fearing retaliation, some villagers urged Taza to send Mary away, believing her presence might invite danger. But Taza refused, standing firm, in his conviction that Mary was now part of their family. "She is my wife," he declared during a heated council meeting. "To cast her out would dishonor us all." His words silenced the dissenters, though unease lingered in the air. Determined to prevent further conflict, Mary proposed an idea: a meeting between representatives from both sides to discuss grievances and find common ground. It was a risky plan, but Taza supported her, recognizing the potential for lasting peace. With his blessing, Mary traveled to a nearby settlement, accompanied by a small group of trusted warriors. The journey was tense, filled with uncertainty, but Mary remained resolute, drawing strength from Taza's unwavering faith in her. When they arrived, the settlers were wary, their faces hardened by fear and mistrust. But Mary spoke with sincerity, sharing her story and appealing to their humanity. She explained how she had lost everything, her husband, her home, and how hatred had nearly destroyed her. "I know what it feels like to suffer," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of her emotions. "But I also know that revenge only brings more pain. Let us choose understanding over anger, compassion over fear." Her words resonated, deeply softening the hearts of those who listened. Slowly, a dialogue began, with both sides airing their grievances and listening to each other's perspectives. It wasn't easy. Old wounds ran deep, but progress was made. By the end of the meeting, tentative agreements were reached, including pledges to avoid violence and work toward peaceful coexistence. Though the road ahead would be long and difficult, the seeds of reconciliation had been planted. Returning to the village, Mary was greeted as a hero. The villagers celebrated her courage and hailed her efforts as a turning point in their struggle for peace. Even those who had doubted her initially now praised her determination and wisdom. Taza embraced her tightly, his eyes shining with pride. "You have done what many thought impossible," he said. "You have shown them the power of love and forgiveness." In the months that followed, Mary and Taza dedicated themselves to nurturing the fragile peace they had helped create. They traveled to neighboring villages and settlements, spreading messages of unity and cooperation. Wherever they went, they emphasized the importance of respecting each other's ways of life and working together to protect the land they all called home. Their efforts bore fruit, slowly transforming suspicion into trust and fear into friendship. Through it all, Mary never forgot where she had come from, or how far she had come. She carried Thomas's memory with her always, honoring his legacy by building a new life rooted in love and purpose. And though she missed him dearly, she found comfort in knowing that he would have been proud of the woman she had become. Taza, too, held a special place in her heart, a man who had saved her not just physically but emotionally, showing her that love could conquer even the deepest scars. Their home became a sanctuary for others seeking refuge from the chaos outside. Settlers and native families alike found shelter within its walls, drawn by the reputation of kindness and fairness that Mary and Taza had cultivated. Together, they created a haven where differences were celebrated rather than feared, a testament to the power of unity in a divided world. As the seasons changed, so did the village. New faces joined old ones, bringing fresh energy and ideas. Children grew up learning the importance of harmony and respect, carrying these lessons into the future. Mary and Taza watched with pride as their dream of a peaceful community began to take shape. Though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, they faced them together, hand in hand, ready to overcome whatever obstacles came their way. And so, life continued, a tapestry woven from threads of love, resilience, and hope. Mary no longer feared the unknown. Instead, she embraced it, knowing that every challenge was an opportunity to grow stronger. With Taza by her side and the support of their community surrounding her, she looked to the horizon with optimism, confident that brighter days awaited. The months that followed were a time of rebuilding, not just for Mary and Taza, but for the entire village. The fragile peace they had worked so hard to establish required constant care, like tending to a delicate sapling in harsh weather. Every day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities to strengthen the bonds between settlers and the Navajo people. Mary and Taza became symbols of unity, their story inspiring others to set aside fear and mistrust. Mary often found herself traveling with Taza to nearby settlements and tribes, acting as a bridge between two worlds. Her ability to speak both languages made her invaluable, and her presence reassured those who might otherwise have been suspicious. She listened patiently to grievances, offering solutions that respected the traditions and needs of all parties involved. Settlers began to see her not as an outsider or an enemy, but as someone who truly understood their struggles. Similarly, members of other tribes came to trust her because she carried the respect and love of Taza's people. One particular journey stood out among the rest. A settler family had been attacked by raiders, leaving them injured and stranded, miles from any help. Word reached the village, and though some hesitated to get involved, Mary insisted on going. "If we don't help them," she argued, "we're no better than those who hurt us." Taza agreed, and together they led a small group of villagers to the family's aid. When they arrived, they found the family huddled around a dying fire, their faces pale with exhaustion and fear. Mary knelt beside them, speaking softly to calm their nerves while others tended to their wounds. The father of the family, a man named Jacob, looked at Mary with tears in his eyes. "Why are you helping us?" he asked, his voice trembling. "After everything your people have suffered." Mary placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Because hatred only breeds more hatred," she replied. "We choose a different path, a path of kindness and understanding." Those words stayed with Jacob long after the villagers had helped his family recover and sent them on their way. From that moment on, he became one of their strongest allies, spreading word of their compassion wherever he went. Back in the village, life continued to flourish. Children played freely, their laughter echoing through the hills. Women gathered herbs and wove baskets, sharing stories and songs as they worked. Men hunted and fished, bringing back food to share with everyone. It was a community built on cooperation and mutual respect, a stark contrast to the hostility that lingered elsewhere. Mary marveled at how far they had come since her arrival, when she had been unsure if she would ever belong. Now she couldn't imagine living anywhere else. Still, there were moments of tension. Some settlers remained distrustful, accusing the Navajo of secretly plotting against them. Others within the tribe worried that Mary's efforts to build bridges might expose them to greater risks. These doubts weighed heavily on Mary, but she refused to give up. She knew that change took time and that every step forward mattered, no matter how small. Taza supported her unwaveringly, reminding her that true progress was never easy. "You are planting seeds," he told her one evening as they sat beneath the stars. "Even if you don't see the flowers right away, they will bloom." Their partnership grew stronger with each passing day. They complemented each other perfectly, Mary's patience and empathy balancing Taza's strength and wisdom. Together, they formed a team that inspired everyone around them. Villagers often joked that Mary and Taza were unstoppable, capable of overcoming any obstacle. And while they laughed, there was truth in their words. The couple had faced unimaginable hardships, yet they emerged stronger, their love and determination unshakable. As winter approached, the village prepared for colder months. Food was stored, fires were kept burning, and shelters were reinforced against the biting winds. Mary worked tirelessly alongside the others, ensuring that no one went hungry or cold. Her dedication earned her even more admiration, particularly from the younger generation, who looked up to her as a role model. Many children followed her around, eager to learn anything she could teach them. Whether it was weaving, cooking, or simply listening to her stories, they soaked up every lesson with wide-eyed wonder. During this season of preparation, Mary and Taza welcomed a new addition to their family, a baby boy born under the light of a full moon. The birth brought immense joy to the village, with celebrations lasting for days. Elders blessed the child, wrapping him in blankets adorned with traditional patterns. Mary held him close, marveling at the miracle of life. She named him Thomas in honor of her late husband, and vowed to raise him with the same values of love, courage, and resilience that had guided her own journey. Thomas's arrival marked a new chapter for Mary and Taza. They now had a future to protect, a legacy to pass on. This responsibility filled them with purpose, driving them to work even harder for peace. They wanted their son to grow up in a world where differences were celebrated rather than feared, where cooperation triumphed over conflict. It was a lofty goal, but one they believed was worth fighting for. Spring brought renewal, both in nature and in relationships. Flowers bloomed across the landscape, and streams swelled with melted snow. The village buzzed with activity as people planted crops, repaired tools, and planned new projects. Mary and Taza organized another meeting between settlers and tribal leaders, hoping to solidify the progress they had made. This time, the atmosphere was less tense, with many participants arriving already committed to finding common ground. Stories of Mary and Taza's efforts had spread far and wide, earning them respect even among those who had once doubted them. At the meeting, Mary stood before the crowd, holding baby Thomas in her arms. His tiny face seemed to capture the attention of everyone present, his innocence a reminder of what was at stake. "This is our future," she said, her voice steady and clear. "A future where our children can live without fear, where they can learn from each other instead of fearing each other. Let us work together to make that dream a reality." Her words struck a chord, sparking applause and cheers from both sides. Agreements were signed, promises made, and plans drawn up for shared resources and mutual protection. Despite these successes, Mary never forgot the scars of her past. Nights were still difficult, especially during storms that reminded her of the night she had been abandoned in the desert. But Taza was always there, holding her close and whispering words of comfort. He reminded her that she was no longer alone, that she had a family and a community that loved her deeply. Slowly, the nightmares faded, replaced by dreams of hope and possibility. Life in the village became a testament to the power of unity. People from different backgrounds came together, learning from each other and celebrating their diversity. Mary and Taza's home became a gathering place where settlers and tribespeople shared meals, exchanged ideas, and resolved disputes. Their leadership inspired others to follow suit, creating a ripple effect that extended far beyond the boundaries of the village. Through it all, Mary remained grateful, not just for the second chance she had been given, but for the love and support that surrounded her. She thought often of Thomas, her first husband, and how proud he would have been of the life she had built. And she thought of Taza, the man who had saved her and shown her that love could conquer even the deepest pain. Together, they had created something extraordinary, a haven of peace in a troubled land. As summer approached, the village celebrated another milestone, the construction of a shared trading post. It was a place where settlers and native families could exchange goods, share knowledge, and build friendships. Mary and Taza oversaw the project, ensuring that it reflected the values of fairness and respect. On the day of its opening, people from miles around gathered to mark the occasion. Laughter and music filled the air, and for a brief moment it felt as though the world had finally found harmony. But Mary knew that the journey was far from over. There would always be challenges, always be forces trying to tear apart what they had built. Yet she faced the future with confidence, knowing that she and Taza, and now little Thomas, would stand firm. They had proven that love and understanding could overcome even the greatest divides. And as long as they remained united, nothing could shake the foundation they had created. Under the vast desert sky with the stars twinkling above, Mary gazed out at the village she now called home. It was a place of beauty, resilience, and hope, a reflection of everything she had fought for. She smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. No matter what lay ahead, she knew she was ready. With Taza by her side and her son in her arms, she stepped forward into the unknown, embracing whatever the future might hold. Years passed, and the village thrived in ways no one could have imagined. The shared trading post became a symbol of unity, drawing people from distant lands who sought not just goods but connection. Settlers and native families worked side by side, exchanging stories as much as supplies. Children played together, their laughter blending into the rhythm of daily life. Mary watched it all with pride, knowing that each small act of kindness had helped build this haven of peace. It wasn't perfect. There were still disagreements and moments of tension, but the foundation they had laid was strong enough to withstand them. Mary herself had changed. The frightened widow abandoned in the desert was gone, replaced by a woman of strength and purpose. Her days were filled with meaning, whether she was teaching children how to weave baskets or mediating disputes between settlers and tribespeople. She carried herself with confidence, her voice steady when she spoke, her actions guided by wisdom earned through hardship. Yet, she never forgot where she had come from. Memories of Thomas lingered like a quiet presence, reminding her of the love that had once shaped her life. And Taza was her anchor, her partner in every sense of the word. Together they faced challenges head-on, their bond unshakable. Their son Thomas grew quickly, his curiosity about the world around him insatiable. He ran barefoot through the village, chasing lizards and climbing trees. His dark eyes sparkled with mischief, and his smile lit up even the gloomiest days. Mary and Taza took turns teaching him the Navajo language, the settler customs, the importance of respecting both cultures. They wanted him to grow up understanding that differences weren't barriers but bridges. When he asked questions, which he often did, they answered patiently, encouraging his thirst for knowledge. By the time he was 6, he could already translate simple phrases between languages, earning admiration from everyone who met him. Life wasn't without its struggles. As Thomas grew older, new challenges arose outside the village. Some settlers, driven by greed or fear, began encroaching on tribal lands again. Rumors of impending conflict spread, casting shadows over the fragile peace Mary and Taza had worked so hard to maintain. The elders called meetings, debating how best to respond. Should they fight, negotiate, retreat deeper into the wilderness? Each option came with risks, and the weight of the decision rested heavily on Taza's shoulders. Mary stood by him during these difficult times, offering counsel and support. "We've come too far to give up now," she told him one evening, as they sat outside their home, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. "If we show courage, others will follow." Her words gave him strength, reinforcing his belief in the path they had chosen. Together, they devised a plan, not to retaliate, but to gather allies, reminding those who had once doubted them of the progress they had made. Slowly, they built a coalition of settlers and tribes willing to stand together against aggression. When the inevitable confrontation came, Mary stayed behind with Thomas while Taza led the group. She hated being separated from him, but she understood the importance of protecting their son. For days she waited anxiously, pacing back and forth, staring at the horizon for any sign of his return. Finally, one morning, she saw riders approaching. Her heart leapt as she recognized Taza at the front, his posture proud despite the exhaustion etched on his face. Behind him rode men and women from both sides, their expressions weary but determined. They had succeeded, not through violence, but through negotiation, convincing the aggressors to retreat and respect boundaries. The victory was celebrated throughout the village, with feasts and songs lasting late into the night. But Mary noticed something different this time. There was less cheer and more reflection, as though everyone understood how close they had come to losing everything. People gathered around fires, sharing stories of what they had endured and vowing to remain vigilant. Mary listened intently, her mind racing with thoughts of the future. She realized that peace wasn't something you achieved once and then forgot about. It required constant effort, a commitment to nurturing relationships and addressing grievances before they escalated. Thomas entered his teenage years. He began taking on more responsibilities within the community. He accompanied Taza on hunting trips, learning how to track animals and read the signs of nature. He helped Mary tend to crops, listening intently as she explained the cycles of planting and harvesting. Most importantly, he continued bridging the gap between settlers and tribespeople, using his unique upbringing to foster understanding. Villagers often remarked that he was a mirror of his parents, strong like Taza, compassionate like Mary, and destined for greatness. One summer, a group of settlers arrived seeking refuge from drought and famine. Their arrival sparked debate. Among the villagers, some worried about stretching resources too thin, but Mary stepped forward, urging generosity. "We were once strangers ourselves," she reminded them. "Look how far we've come because someone chose to help us." Her words resonated deeply, and the villagers agreed to share what they had. In return, the settlers offered skills and labor, strengthening the community even further. This exchange became a turning point, proving that cooperation could benefit everyone involved. By the time Thomas reached adulthood, the village had transformed into a thriving hub of diversity and collaboration. People from all walks of life called it home, united by shared values and mutual respect. Mary and Taza, now older but no less wise, served as advisors, guiding younger generations as they took on leadership roles. They taught lessons learned from decades of struggle and triumph, emphasizing the importance of empathy, patience, and perseverance. Their legacy wasn't just a peaceful community, it was a mindset, a way of living that prioritized harmony over division. On quiet evenings, Mary would sit outside with Taza, watching the stars twinkle above. Sometimes, Thomas joined them, bringing news of projects he was leading or stories of adventures beyond the village. These moments felt timeless, as if the three of them existed outside the chaos of the world. Mary often thought about how far they had come, from the darkness of abandonment and grief to the light of love and unity. She felt immense gratitude for Taza, for Thomas, for the villagers who had welcomed her, and for the second chance she had been given. As the years rolled on, Mary's hair turned silver and lines creased her face, but her spirit remained as vibrant as ever. She became a storyteller, sharing tales of her journey with anyone who would listen. Her words painted vivid pictures of loss and redemption, of fear and courage, of despair giving way to hope. Children and adults alike gathered around her, captivated by her voice. Through her stories, she kept the memory of Thomas alive while honoring the man who had saved her and given her a new beginning. When Taza passed away, leaving behind a void that could never truly be filled, Mary leaned on the community she had helped build. They surrounded her with love and support, ensuring she never felt alone. She found solace in knowing that Taza's legacy lived on, not just in the village, but in the hearts of everyone he had touched. Together, they mourned, celebrated, and continued forward, carrying his spirit with them. In her final years, Mary reflected on the life she had lived. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. She had faced unimaginable pain and emerged stronger, finding purpose in places she had never expected. She had loved deeply, lost profoundly, and rebuilt tirelessly. And through it all, she had discovered the power of forgiveness, not just for others but for herself. As she lay beneath the same vast sky that had witnessed her journey, she smiled, feeling at peace. Her story, a tale of survival, love, and resilience, would live on, inspiring generations to come